Hi, I'm Lovely, and today I'm going to review the second story of classic Doctor Who, The Daleks. Spoilers ahead. Hi everyone. I don't have a lot to say for the intro since I pretty much said everything I needed to in my Unearthly Child review, but I did want to add a couple things. 1. In the description I have the dates of when I watched all the episodes of a story. For example, The Daleks is a 7-part story. I did episodes 1 and 2 together on May 16th, episodes 3, 4, and 5 on the 17th, and finally episodes 6 and 7 on the 18th. There is no real purpose in why I'm jotting down this information, I just think it's kind of interesting to look at. I like analyzing my watch patterns whenever I binge something. Anyway, 2. I will now say how many episodes a story is before the review begins. Classic Doctor Who was very different in how it paced its stories. Instead of a story being a single episode or a two-parter like in New Who, every story is a two-parter or more from what I've gathered. We have a two-part story coming up after the Daleks actually, and from memory, I don't think that's common. I'm just letting y'all know why I don't put the actual number of episodes in the title. It's because I want to simplify it. You know the season, you know the story. That's good enough, I think. Third and final thought, spoilers for the latest 15th Doctor episode, the Interstellar Song Contest. Oh my god, Carol Ann Ford, aka Susan, came back and made a cameo. Holy shit. That's all I want to say. This is a review of Classic Who, I will stay focused on that. But I thought it was worthy of a mention. Crazy timing to start these reviews, huh? God. I hope to see Susan and the Fugitive Doctor in the finale for this season. I'll lose my mind. Okay, I'll get back on track, everyone. I'm Lovely. It's time to review the 7-part story, The Daleks. Episode 1, The Dead Planet. This first episode is spooky. We land in Skaro and explore the planet a little bit before deciding to head back into the TARDIS. Everything appears to be okay, but we know something wrong is going to happen. This episode itself is really chill but also really tense. I felt this tenseness the most when we were in the TARDIS midway through the episode. It kind of felt similar to the story Listen from New Who. In that story, we're at the end of the universe, waiting for something to come barging in on our characters. It's a scary vibe, and I felt that a lot in this episode. I really like the atmosphere of it. Other things to comment on? We got this cool-ass snack scene where our characters are eating something that tastes like eggs and bacon, but it changes with each bite. That was kinda sick. We also have the Doctor being insane! It's not revealed until later, but he lies to his companions about the TARDIS not working so they can all explore the planet. He really is a madman with a box, very accurate description. And finally, it should be mentioned, the iconic ending shot with the Dalek POV. I haven't talked about the Daleks yet because I figured I'd say a lot in the rest of the 7-parter, but I should at least mention that. It was pretty cool. Let's continue. Episode 2, The Survivors. We are formally introduced to the Daleks and more. A lot happens in this one. My notes are everywhere. First, I loved Ian calling out the Doctor. I mentioned it in my last review, but something I was looking forward to was the companions butting heads with the Doctor. Ian rightly gives the Doctor shit for lying, and I enjoyed watching that. Next thing, thank God the Daleks paralyze. I wonder if that's something that'll only occur in this story or more of Classic Who. I don't remember any Daleks paralyzing people in the season after this, when they tried to invade Earth, but I don't remember anything from that story, so we'll see. I'm hyped to find out. We also get the mention of the Thals in this, a race that went to war with the Daleks native to Skaro. I could be wrong, but I don't think Thals are mentioned at all in New Who, so I wonder what we'll learn as the series continues to do more Dalek stories in the future. I should also add that this is a lot more engaging than the Caveman episodes, but not just because it's a Dalek story. I just think it's a good story in general. The radiation stuff is scary, we need radiation gloves, drugs to survive, and it's intense. We're imprisoned by the Daleks trying to find a way out, and that's also pretty fun to watch. It's just a neat story. I just got finished rewatching the 13th Doctor's era with a friend of mine, and by the end of that, there are like 3 almost back-to-back stories that involve the Daleks. Do not worry, I'm good. I don't get excited when I see Daleks anymore, after seeing them in as many stories as I've seen them in. But I am happy to say they're pretty interesting here. Also, something else that's interesting, it's fascinating seeing the Daleks meet the Doctor for the first time, especially after listening to one of the Fugitive Doctor audios where she encounters the Daleks. Time travel shenanigans. Anyway, I covered most of what I wanted to in this episode. Let's move on. Episode 3. The Escape. We get introduced to the actual Thals, and I have to say it got a lot more interesting. Though I'll note, there are better first impressions. It goes well in the one-on-one scene we have with Susan and one of the Thals. I'll be honest, I memorized none of their names. But after that, we have a scene that's just the Thals talking to each other, and it leans a little bit too much into dude talk. Pause if you want to read. To keep it simple, this conversation didn't make me like the Thals. Thankfully, it doesn't really go anywhere. But yeah, not the best convo if you want me to root for the people we're about to follow for the next bunch of episodes. I watched this scene and was thankful I wasn't around them. Other than that though, okay episode. We got to see a pretty crafty plan where the companions and the Doctor fake an argument to break the camera that's watching them in their cells, and we end the episode by getting into a Dalek. Neat. On to the next one. Episode 4, The Ambush. Like a lot of the episodes in this arc, it's pretty chill. We escape the Daleks with the help of a very cute distraction from Susan, where she literally blinks at the camera to show us she's faking an emotional outburst. And after that, we get one of the best quotes I think in all of Doctor Who. The Daleks just killed a bunch of Thals, very sad, and the Thals who survived are discussing a new plan to approach the Daleks. They say, "We came at them unarmed. What other way can we approach them so they aren't scared of us?" And Ian responds with the bombshell. "They're afraid of you because you're different. It doesn't matter what you do, you're going to scare them." Holy shit, what a good way to describe ignorance. It always confused me on how a show like this has a small but vocal crowd of bigots. It's clear what side of history Doctor Who is on, or at least what side it tries to be on. Sometimes it misses the mark. Yet the fandom still has a very lame crowd of transphobic people, or just racist people. It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, incredible quote from Ian. Other things I liked? Like the caveman story, they give the Doctor shit for trying to just leave since they aren't involved in this war. The Doctor genuinely says this at one point. "The Thals are no concern of ours. We cannot jeopardize our lives getting involved in an affair which is none of our business." Like I said in my last review, it's really interesting seeing how the Doctor starts off as a character. Maybe I gave the 12th Doctor's final episode a little too much shit for how they portrayed the first Doctor. Dude's kinda toxic. I kid. If I see the first Doctor doing anything like that in these next 3 seasons, I will be shocked. Anyway, a funny thought I had to try and justify how the Doctor's acting, not that I need to, but just because I think it'd be kind of fun. Maybe subconsciously he doesn't get involved because of everything that happened with the Division. He spends however many regenerations dealing with the Division, then regenerates into an incarnation that maybe wants to take a break. I don't know. I may mention the Fugitive Doctor a lot in these reviews, by the way, or just a bunch of New Who stuff in general. Personally, I just like acknowledging all of the canon. It's fun trying to put all of these pieces together. Can you tell I'm a huge fan of Lost? Anyway, that's all of my thoughts. Moving on. Episode 5, The Expedition. I don't have a lot to say for this one. It wasn't bad, there's just not a lot to comment on. I did have a couple things I wanted to mention from the episode though. First, I never thought I'd see a Dalek using drugs, and the visual itself to show that it was tripping was hilarious. If you could find the scene online by itself, I highly recommend watching it. And second, I really love Ian. His morals this story, man, I love him. The Daleks got the fluid link, something we need so we could fly the TARDIS out of here, and it was awesome to see Ian uncomfortable with the idea of using the Thals to get it back. "We will not use the Thals to fight in our cause," he says. He beefs with the Doctor and Barbara. Kinda sick, some genuine conflict. Eventually the Thals do help us out, but it's because they gain the courage to fight the Daleks. It was pretty nice to see. Anyway, we learn that there's a lake on Skaro that is just filled with genuine genetic monsters. We see one for a bit, and I mean it, it's fucking horrifying. I don't know if the lakes are mentioned when we go to Skaro in New Who in, I believe, Season 9 of the show, but it is really interesting to see how developed Skaro is as a planet in this story. Cool stuff. Episode 6, The Ordeal. Hilarious name for an episode. Can we just call every episode The Ordeal from now on? I think it's an incredibly funny name. Anyway, I should probably talk about the episode. I did not like it. It did have a couple nice moments, like the Daleks tracking the Thals via vibrations in the cave, very graboid of them, and Susan had an adorable reaction to cutting the power supply with the Doctor. But other than that, it's just a lot of walking through a cave. If one episode had to be cut out for the 7-parter, it would be this one. These episodes are only 25-ish minutes, I believe. They aren't that long, but I really felt the length on this one. I know there's a colorized version of this episode out there that was made for the 60th anniversary, I believe. I wonder if the cuts made in that are mostly from this episode. But yeah, I did not like watching this one. It was an ordeal. Let's move on to the final episode of the Daleks. Episode 7, The Rescue. By the end of this 7-part story, I was definitely waiting for it to end, but this last episode was still pretty good. It opens up with this cool-ass ordeal, where Ian is attached to one of the Thals via rope, and that Thal is hanging off of a cliff basically, dragging Ian down. If somebody doesn't do something quick, they're both dead. I was watching this like, oh, how do we get out of this? I don't think Ian would cut the rope despite that looking like the only option. What are we gonna do? And what happened was brutal and hard to watch. The Thal cuts the rope and sacrifices himself. There's no speech, he just does it. Now it should be acknowledged that this Thal was a shitter, but it's still a courageous move from him. Random Thal, I salute you. Other stuff, we defeat the Daleks and end, I believe, a 500-year war. I genuinely don't remember the explanation for how they come back in the future, but I am excited to see how they do it. I also can't wait to see what happens to the Thals. It's kinda depressing. At the beginning of the story, I will be honest, I didn't plan on retaining any information regarding the Thals because we know they eventually lose. Like, why bother? But I made sure to take notes and pay proper attention because it might be kind of fun being actually invested, you know? So I do have theories on the downfall of the Thals, and I can't wait for it to be shown or explored at some point. Maybe the Dalek they took out of the Dalek suit gets the jump on the Thals and something happens there? Unsure. I do hope the resurgence of the Daleks is fun like the beginning of New Who. I think their story is perfect in seasons 1, 2, and 4 of New Who. But there's a lot of Dalek appearances where it's like, well, okay, I guess they're back. Said with almost no excitement. Chris Chibnall's first 2 Dalek stories in his era are the exception. Related to the Daleks, one Thal went out like a G. I'm actually unsure if he died. There's one Thal that gets shot in the final fight and he just takes it like a champ before continuing the fight. It was badass. Anyway, the Daleks are defeated and we celebrate. We get a very cute moment with Susan being gifted, well, a gift, from the Thals, and her joy is so infectious. Can you tell that she's one of my favorite companions? Genuinely an all-time companion for me. That's not all that happens though. Barbara and a random Thal share a kiss, and I didn't expect it at all. I do like the moment, but I do wish she had more to do in the story. I felt like the Doctor, Ian, and Susan really shined, but she didn't really get much more than this random kiss. Overall though, a nice end to the second story of Classic Who. We head back into the TARDIS, something explodes, and we set up the next story. I am a little sad that the feelings of the companions aren't really talked about. Like in my Unearthly Child review, I was shocked that they were able to function at all after the story, but hoped they would talk about it here. Well, they didn't. And they go through another ordeal. Seemingly kinda fine at the end. It is what it is. I wouldn't mind if they touched on it more, but it's not like this is a new thing for Doctor Who episodes. You'll see our companions fight literal gods and have a smile by the end. It is what it is. Time for the outro. Thank you everyone for watching. This was way longer than last time, understandably so. I am not excited for these long-ass stories. I saw that we have a 2-parter next, and all I can say is thank God. Expect a shorter review for that one. Anyway, if you want to watch more Doctor Who related content that I made, it will all be linked in the description. I'm Lovely. Thanks again for watching. Goodbye. How long was that recording? 26 minutes? Man. Fun fact, I'm sweating right now, and I don't know why. I don't know why I was nervous to record all of that. Holy shit.